Hey guys, welcome back to Entertainment Roundup. I'm Jay77. I'm going to keep it short and simple. First things first, I want to get this out the way. I've heard about the passing of one of the stars of Happy Days. She played uh, Joni Cunningham, of Richie Cunningham's little sister. She died at the age of 57. According to reports, she was found at home unresponsive. She was rushed to the hospital where she was announced dead. This actually happened. I was going to talk about it at the cafe at Starbucks, but unfortunately, there was closing and I couldn't get a chance to talk about it. But I wanted to recognize that the passing has happened. All the co-stars from Happy Days, including the Fonz himself, have actually has spoken very highly of her. He said she'd be sorely missed and she can finally achieve what she wasn't able to achieve where she was alive on this earth. And what they really mean by that is that she really did struggle to have a career outside of Happy Days. She's one of those stars that just couldn't click. She had a spin-off show with one of her co-stars, but she actually would ended her marrying that co-star, and then later on she went on to have a movie career. It just didn't cut it. She also had a lot of financial problems. She was actually even evicted from her home, so she really did struggle. But she kept herself up. She still kept herself busy, and for what I've heard and what I've been seeing in memoirs and other stuff, she didn't really regret her feelings with being in Happy Days or how she was able to move forward. It is a sad end. Again, one of the Happy Days stars, I call her the little sister. She died at the age of 57. Here's something that I also did not realize about the star. I believe her name is Honey. I know I'm going to correct it when I actually record this. I know we'll do a correction video about that. But little Richie's sister was actually 14 when she started, and keep in mind this is when Happy Days was actually an hour long. Happy Days was not the same Happy Days that we actually known as it today. When during the earliest stage period, they didn't know what direction they was going to take Happy Days. There was an hour long. They had segments that seemed to not match well with what the current show was. There was some daring episodes that I'm actually glad they actually done, but it wasn't really the strong start as it was. It wasn't until they shortened it to half an hour and made Fonz an actual part of that storyline. It was one of those stories. But you always had Richie's sister. She always had a sly remark, especially with it coming to parents. One of the things she always says that her family was still frisky. It was kind of one of the most daring remarks she had. But she was also one of those characters that really did balance it out very, very well. Again, I just wish that her career would have definitely have took off more so than anything else. Her co-star that starred alongside with her with Vinny Love Chachi, I believe they called the storyline. He actually had a career right after that. He went on to star in other TV shows as well. But for her, it wasn't panned out that well. But nevertheless, she was still remembered in Happy Days. Her stars actually have mentioned great things about her, and it is a very tough loss for the television industry as well as for Hollywood. Again, Richie's sister passing away, and I'm going to call that for the fact is her name keeps escaping me. She passed that way at 57. Very, very sad to hear that. Again, I would have talked about it yesterday. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get to that recording on time. I will make a disclaimer though. I mentioned this before with the Charlie Murphy. He was actually 57, not 52. I was way off on that. I'm not off on this date. This was actually been confirmed. She is 50. She died at 57. Charlie Murphy died at the age 57 as well. I thought he was 52 years old. I didn't realize he was that old. But again, still a sad loss. So I just want to correct that real quick before going to the other stories that I wanted to touch on to. For those who are fans of football, you probably heard about this. But even if you're not a fan of football, they was talking about this all throughout the week. Aaron Hernandez, you all know that he has been he's this former NFL star who has been convicted of murder, who was sentenced to life without parole. He also has just recently been acquitted from another charge, another murder, which was not related to the charge he was done now. He was acquitted of that. He was found dead, apparently from suicide, in his correctional facility. The case has really baffled his lawyers, his family members, as well as just law enforcement entirely, because they was kind of surprised that he would take his life after he'd been acquitted. I find that very strange that they would actually think that way, considering that he was serving a life without parole. He wasn't going home. Even when he was acquitted of this other charge, he was still serving a life without any chance of parole at all. And that is something that I think people need to keep in mind when they hear stuff like this. But he is a high-profile case. He is one of those cases that going to get more attention, and it is a very sad, very tragic end for all parties involved when it came to this situation. Nothing should be, I mean, very strict from this. No one should be celebrating, or no one should be jumping for joy after what has happened. There is no closure. Never will be no closure for the victims. That was actually proven, especially since the victims of this previous case still blames him for what has happened, and is still pursuing possible civil liability against the estate. The estate is suing is planning on suing the correctional facilities because they felt they didn't do a good enough job of keeping an eye on him, making sure he was okay, making sure they checked on him. So this is a situation is still going to go on and on. And then there's also reports of his sexuality, which, for what I understand, has been confirmed. But I feel this has been irrelevant to the situation that we're seeing here. Hernandez again was convicted in 2015 for the murder of a semi-pro football player. This was stemming to his, I believe, his former fiance, sister, who was dating at the time. This is also something that relates to his alleged past, which was gang related. So a lot of stuff has had led to a lot of the stuff that's leading to now. In one note left by Hernandez, who was in prison, who is his prison boyfriend, who was now 20, who was on 24/7 suicide watch. Multiple law enforcement sources confirmed Hernandez's sexuality would have, of course, not been relevant, save for the fact that the inmate relationship he allegedly had was a male former high school classmate, was at the center of the investigation into Lloyd's murder. So there's a lot of stuff that's being thrown out there. A lot of stuff you gotta really filter out, and a lot of stuff you just simply gotta say, look, with all due respect, this had nothing to do with what's going on. And in many cases, some cases it does, but in many cases it don't. It's just another stuff that the media just want to say, okay, this is what we just found out, even though they probably had this information for a long time, and then it's probably just spilling out right now. There is no winners. And at the same time, there's no one should be. I don't know. A lot of people say, "Oh, this is great. He's lying in hell." Look, I'm not wishing any ill will against anyone. Not the families, not the victims. No one. No one should be celebrating this. No one should be joyous of what has happened. And right now, to me, my heart is prayers from all the people involved, the families of Aaron Hernandez, the families of the victims, because there is no closure. That wound is an open wound that sadly may never heal. And it's because of one person's actions. Again, when he was acquitted and sentenced, and I think a lot of people say it was disappointed, a lot of people was upset. But I'm saying to myself, yeah, you could be upset, I understand, especially when you think he did it. But then again, what have he won? He won nothing. He's still going back to jail at the end of the day. He's still in prison. He's going to remain in prison for the rest of his life. And what's even worse about it is that even if he was convicted, it doesn't change the fact is that he's still going to be in prison the rest of his life. Are they going to give him another life sentence on top of life sentence they already gave? To me, that doesn't make no sense. So in many cases, there really was no wins from this. And to think that there was going to be any wins for convicting him, it may be for the victims who will sense closure, but in many instances, it really didn't matter to the person whether he was convicted guilty or not. And to me, that pretty much set the precedence for him committing suicide more than anything else, because again, he wasn't coming home. he was not going to see his daughter again. He was not going to be able to hold his family members again, or embrace his mother, or speak to his mother the same way like we have the purpose of speaking to our family members. So the idea that he actually won anything, he didn't win anything. He was in jail for life without parole, meaning he was going to be there. There was no chance he was going to get parole at all. So yeah, this is a very, very crazy, saddened, heartbroken case. And to me, everybody suffers. The family have suffered from his actions. The victims have suffered for what he have done. And in the end, to me, there's no justice and there's no healing from this. Not for a long time, if ever. So I'd like to hear what your opinion on that. I'd like to hear what your feelings on that, what you think what I said. I know it sound may come a little harsh, but I got to be realistic here. I mean, when I heard this case, when I heard he was on trial for this situation, and knowing why he was in trial in the first place, I said to myself, is he really, is there really going to be justice on there? He's already serving a life prison sentence. What more can you give him? There's nothing else beyond sight. What, are you going to give him double life? Wow, that's crazy. What, you want to, what, you want to charge him for restitution? Because the only thing you're going to get out of it is restitution fees. That's the only thing that you're going to get out of it. Other than that, he's in jail. He's already in jail for life. But you may disagree. I'd like to hear what your feelings on that. As for the New England Patriots, I don't know if they made a comment or not. I'm guessing they didn't, and understandably so. There was still some talk about them. As you know, they went to see the president of the United States, Donald Trump. Only a handful of football players have shown. A lot of them refused to show for personal or political reasons. But then again, a lot of them didn't show up for Obama as well. A good chunk of them didn't show up for personal or political reasons. So it really all depends. But it really got a lot of attention because it was really a handful of people that only show up for Trump. If I was in that situation, I'll show up because who knows if I were going to get a chance to visit the White House again in that circumstances. Well, I like the guy, not the guy. He is the president. I will show him that respect. He ain't. Well, I'm not here to do wine and dine and hear about his success stories. I'm there because he congratulated me on the Super Bowl championship. The same thing of any other hero sports they have done. So, to me, that's all it is to it. To me, the media made it a big thing. It ain't that big of a thing because, again, there are some athletes who did the same thing with Obama. You had hockey players who wouldn't go for him because he was a Tea Party supporter. You got some even from the New England Patriots. Some of the Giants and some of the Jets didn't. Mostly the Giants didn't go because of the same reason. So it really all depends on the person's personal vision. I'm not mad at them that they didn't, and I'm not mad if they would have gone there anyway. So big deal. They made it like, oh, who's going to show up? Well, if they show up, they fine. If not, who cares? One thing I will say people should be cared about if you're a James Bond fan, especially since the way the rumors have been thrown out like hot potatoes surrounded in the Oval Office room. I gotta say that because that's exactly what this feels like. MGM is hunting for a bid for a new partner to do the latest installment of the James Bond franchise, which is yet to be in development, at least for what I understand. We don't know is Daniel Craig going to return. There's rumors that he would. There's rumors that he wouldn't. I say, let me see him on the dotted line. Technically, he's supposed to be on another year on his contract to do one more Bond, unless they bought him out or unless he opted out. I'm assuming he's going to come back for at least one more Raw. But again, this is all pretty much on the side when the question is, what studio other than MGM is going to be producing the Bond franchise? And this is something of a big deal for a lot of reasons. One is very clear that MGM financially cannot make these films alone. There's a reason why they almost went bankrupt. There's a reason why Columbia Pictures, which is owned by Sony, have bought the joint venture, brought them together. And there's a reason why a lot of people are even surprised that Sony didn't decide to continue on the franchise under their name. There's a lot of stuff going on with that, and there's a lot of stuff that's wondering, is it a strategy pool? Now, this is not the first time that MGM was looking for a co-partner to help finance the film. Warner Brothers has been talked about a lot. They was on and off for a while. New Line Cinema as well has also been named. Universal Studios also been named for a while. So it's been definitely been a swirl of information. We also possibility that Columbia could do it again for another film. It's also that situation that we have. But again, this is also very crucial because again, the Bond film don't come cheap anymore. The last Bond film, Spectre, cost $250 million. It made 100 plus in the United States. It made almost 4 million worldwide, as including the United States numbers. So these movies are getting more and more expensive, and so for a studio to do it by itself is highly unlikely. And with their own financial troubles, which they still have, by the way, they didn't exactly got out of that situation just yet. They need another studio to help finance and keep the Bond franchise going, which there's no question they want to keep going because that is their bread and butter. Most importantly, that's their lifeline. MGM really don't have that other major properties, especially in the UA division, the United Artists division, which still exists. Technically, it's still there as their own entity in some shape or form. But they have to have another financial backer to do it, especially if they're going to spend $200 million to make this film. And that's just a good chunk of it's going on location alone. So they want to keep it going, but they're going to have to go with that situation. So a bidding war is going to be done, or who will have the code rights to do the films. Now, I am kind of curious of one thing. I am kind of curious how this will affect the library of James Bond. For what I understand, like I said with Columbia, MGM will still hold the rights to the Bond licensing and everything else. They just recently got back the rights from the Spectre projects, from the books all the way from the movies to get Spectre again. So you only can hope that will actually work out for them. But the question is, how would this affect the overall film and the decision making? Because again, Columbia Pictures, they had a good partnership with Columbia Pictures, don't get me wrong, they actually did, they actually like working with Columbia Pictures, but this is not going to be Columbia Pictures. Warner Brothers may want to have some conditions going on, some kind of creative power, which is something that I don't think that Barbara Brock and G. Wilson wants to do. They probably want to keep a tight lid on their side of the family to have more power on their side than anything else. But Warner Brothers may feel differently. Same thing with Universal. Same thing with even Disney. So it really all depends on what is on the table and what changes they're looking to have. Keep in mind, the Daniel Craig era was the first era where we had two studios producing a Bond film. Columbia and United Artists, MGM. I always call them. To me, they always be United Artists, but MGM, they were two different studios. We didn't have that with any of the other Bond films, except for this one. So obviously there is a big, and the reason why, by the way, that happened because they wanted Casino Royale badly. That was the only title that Ian Fleming's done that the Intron production did not have the right to. They have a right to every other books, but didn't have the right to that from that book. The Casino Royale was given to Columbia a long time ago, and Columbia actually had the rights to that. So the moment they partnered up with them, they was able to reboot the franchise with the first book. And what a good movie it was. What a very good book too. I actually read the book. It's very, very, very good. So kind of question is how Warner Brothers or anybody else will go through with this franchise. I'm kind of curious what you have to say about that. I'm kind of curious what your feelings towards it. I'd like to know what your feelings on that as well. And that's just about it, guys. That's just about it. As always, leave your comments below. Let me know what you feel in the comment section. Until next time, this is J77 saying take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.